Honorable Speaker, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, children and youth. A very good afternoon and selamat datang to Malaysia. My name is Jasmin Irisha Jim Ilham from the Malaysian Youth Delegation, and I stand here today with the young people of the world. The Malaysian Youth Delegation is a group of young, passionate Malaysians representing the local youth climate movement at international conferences such as the annual Conference of Youth and Conference of Parties, part of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. MYD connects local Malaysian youth to a global network called Youngo, which also serves as the local focal point for SDG 13 within the major group for children and youth. Dedicated to raising awareness of climate policies amongst Malaysians, the delegates are mentored and trained to translate technical policies into more relevant and relatable information to the public. MYD hosts speaking engagement and capacity building training series with various climate experts and organizations to better understand the current landscape of local and international climate policy. With that, MYD endeavors to hold Malaysian leaders accountable for their promises made at international climate summits. The Malaysian Youth Delegation was established in 2015 and has successfully sent 18 youths to the UNFCCC COP. MYD also has held multiple training series to date and has impacted over 500 young people. Today, I will be giving an overview of youth engagement at the World Urban Forum, specifically on the outcomes of the Youth Assembly and the outcomes of the Youth Declaration. The 9th World Urban Forum has provided a platform for all stakeholders to be involved in discussing the new urban agenda with the Sustainable Development Goals mandate of leaving no one behind, including and especially the children and the youth. For the past 5 days, the children and youth have been actively engaging with putting forward innovative urban ideas and solutions, as well as presenting and contributing perspectives on current pressing urban issues, thus enhancing intergenerational dialogue for inclusion and cities for all. We, the UN Habitat Youth Advisory Board, Major Group for Children and Youth, youth-led organizations, youth and child-serving organizations, and participants at the 9th World Urban Forum are calling upon governments, including cities and urban authorities, to develop diverse youth participation accessibility policy, guidelines, and standards to guide governments, local authorities, civil society organizations, private sector, and others on how to include and engage with different youth, different needs, especially youth with disabilities, young women, refugee youth, youth in conflict cities, and others. Involving youth in peace building, security, and conflict resolution activities as per the mandate of Security Council Resolution 2250 on youth, peace, and security. These activities could include peace talks negotiations, elections, observation missions, to strengthen accountability for youth, responsive democratic processes and systems. Develop normative and operational programs in partnership with major groups and stakeholders, including national and local governments, youth, civil society, and multilateral agencies that engage youth in key focus areas of UN Habitat, the New Urban Agenda, and the 2030 Agenda, such as housing, basic services, municipal finance, local economic development, land tenure, inclusive and participatory governance, and urban planning and design, including public space. Build on and increase the support of UN Habitat's programs globally to include information and offer expertise on inclusion and accessibility to cities, urban authorities, youth-led organizations, CSO, and the private sector. This would include how to engage with diverse youth populations with diverse needs and share tools, resources, trainings, and best practices such as the one-stop youth resource centers, the Global, Regional, and National Urban Youth Funds, the Innovate Africa Program, Youth Advisory Board, and the newly established World Urban Youth Councils Network, and the UN Habitat's Youth Research and Publications Program. Expand the tax basis of local governments with due consideration of horizontal inequality between municipalities. It is often the case that the local governments have so much mandate with little finance. These municipalities should have adequate resources to meet their mandatory delivery through transfers from national governments and allocate youth-led responsive budgeting. Promote horizontal and vertical integration of governance in order to address the territorial continuum, such as opposed to rural and urban dichotomy. Multi-level governance is key to address different aspects of our lives. Without such cooperation, there is always a halt in delivering the social protection floor, as well as tackling environmental degradations. Address underlying risk factors that hinder the ability to respond to both natural and human-induced disasters. This includes reduced spaces for stakeholder engagement, depth, and more. Private sector and businesses should also take into consideration corporate social responsibility that sustains cultural values, environment, and promote equitable urban development. Strengthen the institutional linkage between the World Urban Forum and the high-level political forum process so as to create a stronger follow-up with review mechanism of the NUA through establishment of intergovernmental components within the WUF. Institutionalize stakeholder engagement in accordance with the NUA paragraph 162, which operationalize major groups and other stakeholders, the primary mechanism for participation of sustainable development processes. All parties should follow up on the declaration as a framework. According to Nelson Mandela, the youth of today are the leaders of tomorrow. But I would respectfully disagree. Children and youth are the foundation of the city today. We are part of the problem, but we are also part of the solution. Encourage, engage, and evolve the city with the energy of the youth in the process of the new urban agenda towards Agenda 2030. Thank you.